Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 22nd of July. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on Arirang TV. I'm Mark Broom. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. The UN Security Council adopts a resolution condemning the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. It also demands full and unrestricted access to the crash site in rebel-held eastern Ukraine. Police confirm a heavily decomposed body found in southern Korea almost 6 weeks ago is that of fugitive Seoul-ho ferry owner Yoo Byung-un. Plus, 5 are killed and scores injured after an Israeli strike hits a hospital in Gaza. The Palestinian death toll from the Israeli offensive has now surpassed 500. But our top story this morning, the United Nations Security Council has unanimously adopted a resolution condemning last week's downing of a Malaysia Airlines plane in eastern Ukraine, which killed all 298 on board, and have called for an international probe into the crash. The Australia-led resolution also urged armed groups to allow safe and unrestricted access to the crash site and an end to military activities between the Ukrainian government and pro-Russia separatists in the region, amid mounting pressure from the US and other Western nations over its suspected aiding of pro-Russian rebels thought to be behind the downing of the plane. Russia also voted in favour of the resolution after some revisions were made. On Tuesday, EU foreign ministers are set to discuss imposing additional sanctions on Russia. And staying with that story, pro-Russia separatists in eastern Ukraine, in control of a site where the Malaysia Airlines plane crashed last week, have handed over the black boxes from the aircraft to Malaysian investigators. Reports say rebel leader Alexander Borodai signed over the 2 flight data recorders to the Malaysian delegation in the city of Donetsk. The Malaysians say the black boxes, which could help investigators hopefully determine what caused the downing of the plane. They say the black boxes are in good condition, at least they think so. The separatists also agreed to a transfer of the victims' bodies by train to the Ukrainian government-controlled city of Kharkiv, from which they will be handed over to Dutch authorities. In the Netherlands, where the largest number of victims were from, prosecutors have opened a war crimes investigation. Now back here in Korea, and the suspected owner of the mismanaged ferry that sank in April, leaving more than 300 passengers dead or missing, has been found dead. Authorities say DNA extracted from a body found in a field in Korea's southwestern city of Suncheon on June 12th matched that of 73-year-old Yoo Byung-un, the former head of Semo Group, which is the predecessor of the Seoul-ho ferry operator. And as authorities wait for the final forensic results, the fingerprints from the body also matched that of Yoo. This from a press conference about an hour ago. While authorities still don't know when or how the fugitive died, they found bottles of alcohol near his badly decomposed body. Unaware of Yoo Byung-un's whereabouts, prosecutors actually renewed a 6-month arrest warrant for Yoo just earlier this week. Now, onto the political implications of the sinking. Lawmakers opened a month-long extraordinary session on Monday with one main goal in mind: passing a bill aimed at determining what exactly caused the Seoul-ho ferry disaster. Ji Myung-gil reports.
The ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy agreed Monday to relaunch a task force whose sole responsibility will be ironing out a special bill aimed at determining the cause of April's ferry disaster. The legislation calls for the creation of a parliamentary inspection team and outlines measures to provide compensation for the families of the victims, some of whom have been on a hunger strike since last week, demanding that the bill be passed by this Thursday. For that to happen, the nation's 2 main political parties will first have to resolve their differences. The main opposition party wants a special judicial police officer appointed to the parliamentary inspection team to ensure the effectiveness of the investigation. The ruling party has raised concerns about the idea, saying it could disturb judicial order and the division of powers prescribed by Korea's constitution.
Our party has made new proposals to the ruling party, as it's been saying that appointing the judicial officer disturbs the judicial order, but regardless, a plenary session must open on the 24th.
The proposals given by the main opposition party could affect Korea's judicial order. We must get consent from the people. This is not a matter to be decided by a few.
The ruling party has instead proposed appointing a special prosecutor to conduct investigations at the request of the inspection team. The unified main opposition has accused the ruling party of trying to block passage of the special bill, while the ruling party is blaming the main opposition for playing politics with the issue heading into the July 30th by-elections, where 15 parliamentary seats will be decided. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Now, in recent weeks, North Korea has swung from provocation to concession and then back to provocation again. The latest includes a threat of retaliation against Seoul and Washington for their rebukes of Pyongyang's recent short-range ballistic missile tests. The North claims the missile launches are a sovereign right of the country. South Korea says that's absolute nonsense. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
South Korea's defense ministry has slammed the North's claim that its missile launches are exercises of legitimate sovereignty. In a regular briefing Monday, Defense Ministry spokesman Kim Min-seok said the firing of ballistic missiles without navigational warning is being discussed at the UN Security Council as an inhuman act and that the issue is subject to international condemnation. Earlier, North Korea's powerful National Defense Commission gave Seoul and Washington an ultimatum, saying their isolating policies towards Pyongyang would be met with retaliation. Citing its recent proposals to Seoul that the two sides refrain from slandering each other, the commission said that it had done everything possible to improve inter-Korean ties and that the time had come for a final decision. The North has also flip-flopped in regards to its participation at the upcoming Asian Games, which will be hosted by the South. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Sunday highlighted cross-border reconciliation through the sporting event.
Saying the Asian Games will be an important opportunity for the two Koreas to improve ties and alleviate distrust, he added sports are sacred and should not be used as a political bargaining chip for rebellious powers.
Pyongyang state media added North Korea has decided to send a delegation of athletes to the Incheon Asian Games from September 19th to October 4th. The North's apparent flip-flopping is thought to be its way of pressuring the South to return to negotiations. But the South isn't wavering.
If North Korea really wants to participate in the Asian Games and improve inter-Korean relations, it needs to show sincerity.
The spokesman added that the North is distorting the truth by blaming Seoul for the breakdown in last week's talks. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Japan has dispatched an official from its National Security Council to Korea for the first time since the country officially dropped its ban on collective self-defense earlier this month. An official at Seoul's foreign ministry said on Monday that senior official Takehiro Funakoshi will meet with officials at South Korea's foreign and defense ministries on Tuesday, where he's expected to give a detailed explanation of Tokyo's push for collective self-defense and also seek Seoul's understanding on this issue. This comes just days after the two countries held nuclear talks and comes amid rumors of possible ministerial level meeting perhaps next month. Time now for a look through some of the other international headlines we're following on this Tuesday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, who, as always, is standing by for us at the News Centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Hello, Mark.
So, US Secretary of State John Kerry has joined UN Chief Ban Ki-moon to press for a ceasefire in Gaza.
That's right, Mark. He headed almost immediately to that late-night meeting with the Secretary General after arriving in Cairo. U.S. President Barack Obama had urged Hamas to accept the Egyptian-brokered ceasefire agreement ahead of Kerry Strip, but aides saying they do expect a difficult road ahead to reach a truce that works for both sides. Now, Secretary Kerry also announced a humanitarian aid package worth $47 million to assist Palestinian refugees who fled their homes to escape the violence in Gaza. The Palestinian death toll has now well surpassed 500, a majority of them civilians. The UN says more than 100,000 Gazans have been displaced. And among Monday's attacks, at least 5 people were killed and some 70 others wounded when Israeli tank shells struck a hospital in central Gaza. The Israeli military said it was targeting a cache of anti-tank missiles nearby. Palestine's health ministry said the strike hit the 3rd floor of the hospital, which housed operating theaters and an intensive care unit. And it is in this context that global concern is growing in regards to the humanitarian crisis unfolding in Gaza. Thousands of demonstrators expressed their outrage against the Israeli offensive in cities stretching from Paris to Tokyo and Buenos Aires to Kashmir. 15,000 protesters turned up in London over the weekend to call for justice and freedom for Palestine. Angry crowds were also observed in Turkey for consecutive days, condemning what they perceived as Israel's indiscriminate killings. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department has issued a travel warning for Israel and the West Bank earlier this morning, discouraging any non-essential travel to those areas in addition to the existing warning on the Gaza Strip. The U.S. Aviation Authority has expanded its no-fly zones to cover skies over 6 countries following the shoot-down of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 over rebel-held regions of eastern Ukraine. Included in the list of prohibited airspaces deemed to be the most dangerous include those over eastern Ukraine, the Crimea region, Libya, Iraq, Somalia, and also North Korea. The FAA also issued advisories for Syria, Yemen, and Afghanistan. Many analysts believe the Flight 17 deaths could have been prevented had there been an absolute ban on civilian flights over eastern Ukraine. And finally, Bolivia's President Evo Morales said he will expand coca production if he is reelected to a 3rd term as the country's leader. Well, traditionally, coca leaf is used in religious rituals. It can also be used to make cocaine. Morales was reelected the head of Bolivia's largest union of coca growers, and said the country needs a new law concerning coca production. Current law allows nearly 30,000 acres of coca leaf to be grown for traditional use. One proposal, though, would expand that permitted acreage to more than 49,000 acres.
Said that a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 15 billion. The leaders of Korea and Portugal held summit talks in Seoul on Monday, where economic issues topped the agenda. The presidential office of Cheong Wa Dae says the 2 countries signed 2 MOUs, calling for increased cooperation in renewable energy and tourism. President Park Geun-hye and Portuguese President Aníbal Cavaco Silva exchanged views on how to increase bilateral cooperation in trade, investment and information technology, and they also agreed to pursue joint ventures in Portuguese-speaking countries around the world. Korea's 100 billion won club is growing. More than 450 venture firms posted sales of more than 100 billion Korean won. That's roughly $97 million last year. That's more than 9% higher from the total number of companies on the list in 2012. Something Korea's Small and Medium Business Administration chalks up to advances in technology and also rising exports. The newest entrant into the club includes mobile messaging service KakaoTalk. The combined sales of the 454 firms on the list came to $98.5 billion US dollars. That accounts for more than 7% of Korea's GDP. Now, to some health news. And breast cancer doesn't normally cause symptoms at first, and because of its complex structural characteristics, it's usually very difficult to detect in the very early stages. But local researchers have found a way of maybe levelling the playing field a touch. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
Breast cancer is the most common cancer in women worldwide, but its survival rate when diagnosed in the early stages is close to 100%. The problem is that it's hard to detect in its initial phase with the existing diagnostic system. The internal breast is a complex area made of muscle, glandular tissue, and fatty tissue, which makes it that much more difficult to spot cancer cells hidden inside with two-dimensional X-ray images.
Mammogram images show the breast tissue with overlapped layers, and even if you don't spot something suspicious, it's hard to determine whether it's breast cancer.
Local researchers have developed diagnostic equipment that can see the internal breast tissue in 3D. The device takes 15 X-ray pictures of the breast, each with a different incline of 3 degrees. Then software synthesizes the photos in a 3D stereoscopic image, enabling doctors to see the breast tissue in great detail.
Previously, we had to depend on just one picture, but this gives us an image that shows dozens of layers together. It gives us a 30% higher chance to detect cancer compared to the current method.
There are currently over 16,000 women in Korea who are living with breast cancer, with the number increasing steadily by 10% each year. The new diagnostic method will be developed further and is expected to be commercialized by the end of 2015. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now it's getting rather warm here, and as the mercury rises in the summer, more and more people, especially in Korea, scurry indoors to the comfort of an air-conditioned movie theatre. And what better place to catch a movie than the Busan International Film Festival, otherwise known as PFAN. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won reports on the genre movies on show that will spice up your filmic palette.
This is the 18th annual edition of PFAN, one of the nation's largest film festivals, along with others in Busan and Jeonju. But PFAN sets itself aside from the pack by being Asia's largest genre film festival, one that specializes in more diverse films ranging from fantasy and sci-fi to horror films.
I'm a big movie fan, and this is my third time at PFAN. Although I'm not into thrillers, this film festival has its own unique attractions and colors, which is why I'm back again this year.
I'm a horror movie fan. I watch every horror movie I can find, especially anything Korean or Asian. So this is a good place to watch movies like that.
Film director Kim Seung-hyuk, whose thriller Nothing Lost made this year's World Fantastic Cinema section at PFAN, is thrilled just to be there.
It's an honor that my film is being presented in PFAN's World Fantastic Cinema section, which introduces the newest genre films. I used to be a big fan of genre films and never imagined my film would be shown here.
PFAN this year will feature 210 films from 47 countries. In its main competition section, 12 films are up for the Busan Choice Award. A melodramatic horror film from Argentina called Darkness by Day, and a Chinese film delving into the world of hypnosis called The Great Hypnotist are two being featured. And an American film, Time Lapse, is highly imaginative. It's about a camera that takes pictures 24 hours into the future.
The list of fantastic film festivals begins in Europe. PFAN is similar in size to Spain's Sitges Film Festival, and we have amicable relations with them. This year we focused on discovering and introducing genre films from Latin America, China, and Southeast Asia.
Of the more than 200 films at the festival, 43 are world premieres and 68 of them are Asian premieres. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics as the organizing committee for the Winter Games got the shocking news that their chief organizer has resigned from his post. Now, the 67-year-old Kim Jin-sun, who was in his second term as the head of the organizing committee, resigned from his post on Monday after a press conference. Now, he stated with the Winter Games less than 4 years away, the organizing committee needs new leadership and new changes in the preparations. Now, Kim was a former governor of Gangwon province and has been regarded as one of the most important figures in getting the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics bidding. And now over to some brighter news in the nation. Marine boy Park Tae-hwan, who's been competing at the national team trials in Kimcheon, won yet another event, earning a ticket to every event for the upcoming Asian Games in Incheon. Now, on Monday, the 25-year-old Olympic medalist finished first in the men's 400-meter individual medley as he won his sixth event during the national team trials. With that, Park Tae-hwan earns a ticket to all 6 events for the Incheon Asian Games, including the 800-meter team relay. And no surprise here, he was also named the event MVP as he hopes to surpass 3 gold medals that he's won in 2006 and 2010 during the Asian Games in September. And now moving over to the South Korean national football team this time, as the Korea Football Association is currently going through a rough patch at the moment and trying to make some major changes to the association and the team. And with the first 2 A matches taking place on September 5th and 8th against Venezuela and Uruguay, the KFA stated that they might even go with an interim head coach, adding that they want to carefully choose their next permanent head coach. Meanwhile, with the KFA going through a change within the association as well, an official stated that a new technical committee director will be chosen in the near future. And now finishing things off in the KBO, later tonight, the league will begin the second half of the 2014 season. And with that, just like the KBO stated earlier in the month, the new video replay system will be implemented. And while the new video replay system will allow the managers to challenge disputed calls on 5 different plays, such as fair or foul, safe or out, and catch or no catch, the dispute must be made within the 30 seconds of the call or 10 seconds if the final out of the inning. But the managers have also proposed that the replay will be reviewed by the umpire who made the disputed call, the crew chief, a third umpire on standby, and a KBO official overseeing the game. Meanwhile, if a call cannot be determined by the replay system, the disputed call will stand. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports news.
Good morning, I'm Lee with your weather update. Well, the baking heat is going to continue for southern provinces. High in Daegu will soar to 35 degrees Celsius. So it seems like heat wave advisory and watch is still in effect for most inland regions. So we can expect to have another hot and humid day today. But for the upper provinces, we have monsoon rain in the forecast from this afternoon, and it's going to rain quite heavily and it's going to pouring till tomorrow morning. So heavy rain watch could be issued in those areas. So with clouds and rain sticking around, Seoul and the surrounding areas could notice a bit cooler afternoon highs today. So let's take a closer look at those numbers. The high in Seoul will rise to 29, while Daegu will climb to 35, and Gwangju and Busan will have a daily highs of 32 and 29 respectively. And for other regions, it looks like Jeju Island and Dokdo should see highs of 30. Daejeon should rise to 31, while Mount Kumgang tops out at 22. But that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
That's all we have for now. We'll be back for our next newscast at noon Korea time in about 90 minutes. Until then, goodbye.